Have you ever wondered why mainstream media so often seems to repeat the same narratives? Why the news we consume often aligns with corporate and governmental interest, even when it seems to be against the public's best interest? In today's video, we'll dive into Noam Chomsky's groundbreaking ideas on how media, corporate power, and government control intersect to shape our reality. From the corporate giants behind the news to the ways they manufacture public consent, Chomsky offers a powerful lens to understand how power operates in the modern world. Let's break it all down. Chapter 1, The Role of Media in Society. To fully understand Chomsky's perspective, we need to first examine the fundamental role the media is supposed to play in society. In any democracy, media is expected to be the public's eyes and ears, to be an essential pillar of an informed electorate. Ideally, media should act as a watchdog, holding those in power accountable. It should act as a space where diverse viewpoints can be expressed, debated, and considered. It should be a place where citizens have access to reliable information to make informed choices about their lives and society. This role is not just important, it is foundational to the proper functioning of a democracy. Without an informed citizenry, a democracy cannot function as intended. Citizens need to know what their leaders are doing, what policies are being proposed, and what actions are being taken on their behalf. In theory, the media should be impartial, objective, and serve the public interest. Its job is not just to entertain, but to inform, educate, and foster critical thinking. It should challenge, it should scrutinize, and it should dig deeper than the surface level. At least, that's the ideal. But this ideal, Chomsky argues, is increasingly out of sync with reality. He contends that media in capitalist societies is often designed to serve the interests of the powerful rather than the general public. And by powerful, he doesn't mean just governments. He's talking about corporations, elites, and financial institutions that control the flow of information. Let's take a closer look at how this works. Consider some of the largest media outlets in the world today: CNN, Fox News, the BBC, and the New York Times. These outlets are not owned by independent journalists or small publishers. They're owned by massive corporations. In the United States, just a handful of these corporations, Comcast, Disney, News Corporation, Viacom, CBS, and a few others, own the majority of the media landscape. Now, why does this matter? Because media corporations are not in the business of providing citizens with information for the public good. Media corporations are in the business of maximizing profits. They rely on advertising and subscriptions, which means they need to cater to their audiences, advertisers, and other powerful stakeholders, rather than focusing purely on public service. There's a deeper problem: media ownership consolidation. As the number of companies owning the media industry shrinks, so too does the diversity of opinions and perspectives that the public has access to. What we see, read, and hear is shaped by the interests of these large conglomerates, which often align with corporate and political elites. This results in a narrowing of viewpoints and a reduction in critical journalism. So when you tune into mainstream news, whether it's on a cable network or in print, remember, you're not just consuming news. You're consuming content curated by corporations with a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. This can make it harder for dissenting voices or alternative narratives to emerge, limiting the scope of public discourse. Chapter 2, The Manufacturing of Consent. This brings us to one of Chomsky's most influential and critical ideas, the manufacture of consent. This idea is at the heart of Chomsky's critique of the media. It suggests that rather than simply providing the public with unbiased facts, the media actively shapes public opinion in ways that align with the interests of corporations, political elites, and the powerful. The phrase manufacturing consent might sound unsettling, but think about it. We are constantly bombarded with information, news reports, political ads, and social media posts. But have you ever wondered how we come to accept the narratives we're told? How does public opinion shift so drastically on issues of national importance, such as war or economic policy? Chomsky points to key moments in history where the media played an active role in shaping public consent for policies that benefited the powerful, often against the best interests of the people. A prime example is the lead-up to the Iraq War in 2003. In the wake of the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. government pushed the narrative that Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein, had weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, that posed an imminent threat to the United States. Despite there being little evidence to support this claim, the mainstream media largely echoed these statements without proper scrutiny. Networks like CNN, Fox News, and even the New York Times repeated government claims without questioning them. What happened next is a perfect example of Chomsky's theory. Public consent was manufactured for a war that would result in the deaths of hundreds of thousands and the displacement of millions. The media didn't just report what was happening, it helped create the public consensus that the war was necessary. This is the manufacture of consent, shaping the narrative to make something highly controversial seem normal, acceptable, or even inevitable. What's critical to understand is that this wasn't an isolated incident. The manufacturing of consent happens all the time. We saw it in corporate bailouts following the 2008 financial crisis. We saw it with climate change denial in the face of overwhelming scientific evidence. We see it today in how media outlets frame debates around immigration, healthcare, or labor rights. Chomsky explains that the media doesn't just fail to report the news accurately, it actively shapes how we understand it. This is a critical distinction. The media isn't just a passive observer, it's a powerful tool in shaping public opinion, one that works in the service of powerful interests. Chapter 3, the 5 filters of the media. So, how does the media go about manufacturing consent? Chomsky and Herman break this down using a series of filters. 5 factors that determine what gets reported, how it gets reported, and whose voices get heard. These filters narrow the scope of public debate and ensure that the media stays aligned with elite interests. Let's dive into these 5 filters one by one. Number 1, the size, ownership, and profit orientation of media firms. As we discussed earlier, media corporations are not independent. They are part of larger corporate conglomerates. These companies are profit-driven. The primary objective is to maximize shareholder profits, not to serve the public good. When media outlets are owned by the same companies that also own pharmaceutical, defense, and energy companies, the interests of these industries are naturally reflected in the content of the media. Number 2, the advertising license to do business. Media outlets depend on advertising revenue. This creates an inherent conflict of interest. Advertisers are usually large corporations that want to promote their products, but they don't want media that might challenge their interests. So media outlets cater to the preferences of advertisers by focusing on content that supports consumption, avoids controversial issues, and promotes a pro-business agenda. Number 3, the reliance on information from government and business. Media organizations often rely on government and business spokespeople for information. These sources are not neutral. They're carefully crafted to support the interests of the organizations they represent. Governments and corporations provide the media with official statements. The media, in turn, regurgitates these messages, rarely challenging the agenda behind them. Number 4, flak and the enforcers. When the media steps out of line and challenges the status quo, it faces flak. This could come in the form of legal threats, smear campaigns, advertiser boycotts, and public criticism. The fear of flak keeps journalists and outlets in check. They learn to avoid controversial issues or voices that threaten the established power structures. Number 5, the common ideology of the elite. The media often reflects the worldview of the elite. Corporate executives, government officials, and other powerful figures share a similar outlook on the world. This shared ideology, often pro-capitalist, pro-business, and pro-nationalist, shapes how the media reports on everything from war and foreign policy to climate change and social justice. These 5 filters work together to create a media system that limits the diversity of information and narrows the scope of debate. The range of voices and viewpoints is constrained, and the media's role as a check on power is diminished. Chapter 4, consequences of corporate-controlled media. So, what happens when media is dominated by corporate interests? What happens when dissenting voices are marginalized and the public is fed a narrow range of viewpoints? The consequences are profound, both for society and for democracy itself. Social movements, whether advocating for workers' rights, racial justice, environmental protections, or peace, struggle to get meaningful coverage in mainstream media. When they do get attention, it's often negative or dismissive. The media frames them as fringe groups, radicals, or extremists, rather than legitimate movements for social change. Chomsky argues that the media actively participates in suppressing alternative voices and stifling critical debate. This isn't just an unfortunate side effect, it's part of the system. By ignoring, downplaying, or misrepresenting dissenting voices, corporate-controlled media ensures that the public remains uninformed and passive. Without a media system that allows for the free exchange of ideas, democracy itself is at risk. Chomsky warns when you control the flow of information, you control the thoughts of the people. Democracy depends on an informed public. When the media is in the hands of powerful elites, that information is distorted and democracy suffers. Chapter 5, alternatives and solutions. Chomsky still believes that solutions are possible and change is necessary. The most important step is to recognize the problem. Chomsky advocates for the support and growth of independent media. While large corporations dominate mainstream media, there are now more platforms than ever for alternative voices. Independent journalism, podcasts, YouTube channels, and community radio stations are all offering fresh, often critical perspectives. The internet has made it easier to access alternative sources of information. However, these platforms need support. They need viewers, donors, and advocates willing to fund independent journalism and push back against the corporate media giants. Chomsky believes that the future of media must be decentralized and democratized. We need a media system that is accountable to the people, that doesn't cater to the whims of powerful elites, and that is focused on providing accurate, fair, and diverse information. Chomsky's analysis of the media shows us just how much power is held in the hands of a few corporations. The media just doesn't reflect reality, it shapes it. And the more we understand how media works, the better equipped we are to resist manipulation and to demand a media system that serves the public good, not just the powerful few. If you found this discussion insightful, I encourage you to question the media you consume, seek alternative voices, and support independent media. The health of our democracy depends on it. Keep questioning, stay informed, and always think critically.